Oh,
You think he led with that?
I think he did. Look, one.
Oh, he got it.
One,
He got it.
two,
He got it.
yeah, all
All
day.
right.
All day. Okay, good.
Let's drink some cider.
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Welcome to another episode of the American Beer Review Podcast.
Good times with good friends requires good beer. Lucky for us, we know how to pick all three.
We're a group of friends who grew up in the Pacific Northwest, giving us a jump start on our craft beer journey.
Join us today while Brian,
Alec,
And Chad.
review some beer, talk about beer topics, and whatever else comes up. We invite you to pour yourself a drink and hang out with us.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of American Beer Review Podcast. Today's starter, not a beer, starter drink. We mentioned a couple episodes ago, 3 episodes ago at this point, something like that, is my family's homemade cider. So technically this is brought to you by Bill Rocco. Passed away a couple of years ago, but he is the guy, brought it from the East Coast. It's a 100-and-something-year-old recipe. He was gracious enough to include my dad and then myself in making it. It only took my dad 45 years of knowing the guy before he would let us in on the recipe and help us make it. So we've been making this for,
Oh my God.
over a decade. Just our family.
Has it been that long?
Yeah. So
The aroma of this is awakening
Old
memories
yeah, well,
of like blackout periods.
So I brought it here in a growler, and when I asked my dad to pour some for me, because I knew I was coming here, it said I would bring some for our starter. I said, can you bring me a small jar of
Yes.
cider? Thinking
A small mason, like one of those
Like a
4-ounce
mason
mason
jar.
jars.
4-ounce mason jar.
Yeah.
Not even, because usually you get it in like a full-size mason jar. Can you bring me a small jug of, or small canister of cider? Sure. And that is what he handed me. So
And ladies and gentlemen, there's a gallon in a growler
it's
sitting on the counter here.
64 ounces. I'm probably just taking it back to his house after this because I did not need that much cider. So, old school recipe, no yeast added.
This is a natural fermentation off that yeast that's on the apple rind.
Yep. So the ingredients go in straight into the barrel once they're mixed, and then it sits for ideally at least 12 months. And this has been in the barrel for 2.5 years.
So I snuck a drink already.
No, go ahead.
The thing. This is why it's a problem.
Because it's so good.
It is so. You smell the booze.
But
you
it
don't
smells like
taste
whiskey. It smells like whiskey, but you just get a
yes.
little. It's like a it's like a cinnamon. But it's like not that we're doing a review on this, but I got to talk about this. It's not like that Fireball fake spice, but it's like an actual. Oh, I can't put it, but
Dude,
it's just this is like an infinitely better version of Fireball.
if you had this in a like if just blind taste testing, put it in a 12-ounce can and pour it to me, I'm like, oh, this is great cider. I would drink it pretty quickly.
So-
I talked to my wife about this a lot. Like, this is why I don't drink like those. Oh, these taste really great cocktails. Do you know why?
Because you're gonna slam it.
Because they go down so quick.
Yeah,
Like-
this is like a Washington apples,
Like-
where it just takes there's just no booze hit.
So
Yes.
there
this
is a reason why I poured these into shot glasses.
Yes.
And not into regular glasses. So this one.
Oh, if you poured me a full glass, I'd sit and drink it, and then all of a sudden I'd realize in like 45 minutes that like, oh, I'm stuck on the couch.
Yeah, I'm calling an Uber to get home.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we measured it. It was, I think, 17%.
Which,
last time we had measured
In the
it.
grand scheme of things,
Isn't a ton.
no.
But if you're going to
But-
kill 12 ounces of it like you would a beer,
Yeah.
now it is a big deal.
Yes.
Because you hear cider, and now with ciders on the shelf, you're used to getting 12 ounces of cider. This
Right.
is like a wine.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
need it in a little glass, roll it around, smell it, and this is my drink for the next hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 ounces, but
Right.
this is it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been making it for years. We make some more of it. It's a good, I don't know, sipping drink.
Yeah, in a
but-
shot glass.
Definitely tell people to pace themselves when they first have it, because yes, you could have thrown that entire thing back and refilled it 2 or 3 more times without even thinking about it.
If the growler were sitting here and I didn't know, if I hadn't had it for years,
Right.
if I hadn't done it, and you poured me this little shot glass, I'd have been like, all right, well, this guy's
Why
crazy.
did you
And I'm
only
just
pour me a
like,
shot glass?
yeah, like I'm grabbing one of these extra cups, I'm filling it up,
Right.
like only now, like, I mean, almost to the end of a shot glass, I get a little, like, almost just a very slight, almost burny in the back, like,
Yeah, I've
back
got
of my
a little.
tongue.
I'm feeling a little on my tongue now.
But it's still just like, it's so smooth.
But you just, there's this apple in my mouth.
Yeah, it's, man,
Yep. So
it's delightfully terrible.
secret family recipe. Not my family, but I guess it is now.
Mhm.
So yeah, we'll be making some more, and then yeah, the secret really is letting it sit in those barrels for as long as you can resist touching it. Just smooths all the flavors together.
How,
Oh yeah.
like, was there any thought process going into it of, you said this one's been there for a couple years now. You said normally about a year, and this one's just been there for a couple years. Was there any intentionality behind that, or just happenstance? Like,
So we tapped this one at a year, so it hasn't been sitting for 2 years untapped.
Mhm.
We've just been getting through it a lot slower because we had so that's why we're doing 2 barrels next time. So the idea is we have one that we can just rack for that entire time, and then you don't have to tap it. We just stopped drinking it as much because, we stopped living there. My brother and I stopped living there, and this is not something you grab a whole lot of pulls from when you got to drive. But yeah,
Yes.
letting it sit, it's just better with age, and we've known that. So I'm trying to conserve a little bit of it, and then we'll see. Bring it out, basically just a special occasion drink now versus the first couple times we were so excited that we made it ourselves that it was like every single time people were over, you're like, hey, we got some cider. And now it'd be like holidays or special events, we'll bring out a little bit, or a podcast, I'll break out some.
yeah, yeah, we could probably, I mean, we just schedule a couple extra hours for us to just sit and hang out, for us to have had more than a shot glass of it. But
I
yeah.
mean, there's the rest of the gallon there.
I
If
know.
you want another taster.
I might be tempted to see if Chad's got a mason jar around here to take some, but other than
I
that,
do.
that whole, I've lived a little bit, man. I ain't taking that whole growler.
No, no, absolutely not. Because I don't think you'll feel too much off of this shot.
No.
But when we would pour it into a glass, if you had 12 ounces of this,
Yes.
because it's pure, it's unfiltered. It's got
Mhm.
all of it's not tannins, but all of the impurities that make alcohol hurt the next morning are all there. You'll feel it in the back of your head before you go to bed, even. You're
Yeah.
just going, there's a chunk of my brain
Yeah.
that
It
is
like
no longer functioning.
that hangover wasn't like, oh, I'm dehydrated. It's just my body is just telling me, what did you do last night? This is your punishment. You need to be under the sheets all day.
Yeah.
I hate you.
I don't have a life where I can do that anymore.
No,
No.
which is why you got a shot glass instead of a full glass.
Love it.
All right, so it doesn't tie in directly to my beer topic today. It doesn't tie in at all. I just mentioned and told you guys I would bring it, so I brought it. But I was going to talk a little bit today, and not a super in-depth or heady topic like our last couple have been, but novelty beer gimmicks
Mm.
that have shown up over the years, especially over our beer drinking careers, and they're usually in the more macro space, but the novelty beer gimmicks that have shown up, and then, so which ones do you remember that were like, hey, that's cool, why did that go away? And then which ones stuck around and became no longer a gimmick and are just part of either the industry or part of the brand now? So the couple that I had, just to start it off, so it started as a beer gimmick, and now it is on every single craft beer. Every single can of beer is the wide mouth can. So
Yep.
even when we started drinking,
Dude, that,
they were all the narrow
you're
mouth.
right. I've never even paid it that much attention
And
to
so
that.
now everything is a wide mouth can. It's gone into sodas
Yeah,
and
even
everything
yeah.
else. So the wide mouth can started as a gimmick,
Dude, you
and
just blew
now
my mind.
it is just industry standard. Anybody who's making cans are all wide mouth.
And I think the only reason I've thought of it, and not consciously, obviously, because you just blew my mind about it, is that when I pour, I do tip it to the side a bit and not straight on,
Right.
because you can get a cleaner
Because you
like
let that air
flow.
in, yeah.
Yeah, but the wide mouth is like allowing it to happen, which
Leads into
to another gimmick. I
the
know
next
where
two.
you're going.
Well, so there's two of them, but so the vented cans
Yes.
were around for a while that were supposed to do the exact same thing.
Was
so those
it-
were wide mouth vented.
So you could
Miller-
pour it. You could pour it the wide way, and that little dimple would let the air in. So you could
Miller-
pour
was it-
faster
when you were
or
drinking
drink
it.
faster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It had a place to flow air.
around your lips or something like that.
But was it Miller Lite that did it? Is that who's the main one was?
I
'Cause
don't
I feel like there was a
remember.
phase where I was going through.
Well, Miller did the one where you
Boom. That
for-
was the other one.
for shotgunning,
The punch top
where you
cans.
punch top vent.
Oh, that's okay. That's what I'm thinking of.
But
So,
somebody had like a
you're right.
special
So the
opening, like
vented-
when you cracked it
yes,
normally.
the
you had the
vented
vent.
was like
had
up,
little ribs coming
yes,
off of
off the sides.
Yeah.
Yes, that one. Like I don't think it made as much of a difference.
There's no way that made any difference when you were.
No, but the dimple pop the little tab.
Yep.
That's the one I'm thinking of. That you would pop the can and then you took like a key and
Yep.
you
So back-
notched out the other part there.
Yeah. So back when we had a website, the captain actually had a whole series on things you could use,
Oh, that's
to
right.
open, and then
Oh my god, I forgot
so
about
many
that.
things.
and then it just slowly went away. Not
Yeah,
slowly went away.
It just,
it was there for a bit, and then
they stopped talking about it. There were some still available, and then they were just gone. To me, that was never that was never a shotgunning thing, because you need more airflow when you're shotgunning. Like there has to be a bigger
yes.
because an actual shotgun, you should punch the bottom of a can, and then crack the top, and the top is really your airflow.
Vent, yeah,
so
you're
that
drinking out of the
huge
side.
opening. So by just doing a little guy next to the main opening, that's not enough to shotgun. But to me, what it did is it did make it less like gluggy
right.
as you're drinking, because there is that
But what's the difference? So the wide mouth
yes
became industry standard. The punch top
disappeared.
disappeared.
It's an extra step. It's an extra thing.
Yeah.
How many people actually did it? Like what the actual There's no it's not a flavor changer. It's not a
Did the wide mouth stay because it was able to be? They could standardize it across everybody, and with craft starting to rise about that time, and people were more apt to crack a beer and pour it into a glass for a craft than just crushing it out of a can like a macro. Does that feel like why the wide mouth stuck around because of that? And because it didn't have like something that could specialize to it. I feel like having that little bumped ridge for the vent or adding that's just an extra piece of tooling than just cutting out a standard a now standard just opening and that's it.
I think that's probably it. Is
Yeah.
because the top of a soda can is the exact same as the top of a beer can, whether you're 16,
12.
12, 24.
Yeah, because
they're all the same top. So
I think soda was still at the
1942.
narrow even as when the wide mouth
Yeah.
debuted on the beers, and then the beers took off, and all the soda people went, okay, yeah, cool.
and I
we'll
think
take
it just became a tooling issue. Why are we making two of the exact same thing?
Yeah, we're
that's
not- we're-
probably the exact same.
The narrow one
cost.
broke one day, and they're like, we're not going to
We're just not going
remake
to replace it.
No,
Yeah, when
yeah.
we add new equipment, it's all going to be the white. So
I'm waiting. I'm remembering some of the ones that were on your list. I'm
Go
waiting
ahead,
for one
go
of the
ahead.
next ones. Because it was a bit of a disappointment. So the Keystone has
yes,
done it, and Bush has done it. You have these hunting themes.
yes,
So Keystone has done it that there is the camouflage box, and they've
Yes.
done in past times the hunt for the orange can.
for Keystone, yes,
Yes. The last time I saw it, I think it was Keystone that I got, and it's got camouflage on the box.
yes.
There was no commentary about the orange can,
I haven't seen the orange can in a few years.
and the inside is perfectly normal.
Oh, they didn't even wrap the cans this last time?
Nothing.
Oh, now
It's
that
a
you think about it,
perfectly
yeah.
normal can.
Yeah,
It's just the box.
it's now just a seasonal hunt box now.
It's like I enjoy. I don't know that I ever found an orange can.
I have found one.
I have one in my, almost as like a trophy in my garage.
Did you drink it?
No, why would you do that?
I'm just
No.
So I never found one, but like if I open, if I have if I'm buying a case of beer and it's got like a camo outside, I literally I don't own any camo. I'm not a camo guy, but like if I got camo on it, I expect that can to be camoed. I want the carryover.
I
Like-
haven't seen them this year. I want to say last year Bush Light had either hunting themed or fishing themed that carried into the cans.
Okay.
And then Bush, again, novelty, had, was it last winter season, the Bush lattes?
Yeah, I
I
saw
don't think
those.
I got one of those either.
Well, it was on every can, but yeah, I'm taking like a Midwest theme.
Yeah.
And
Well, was it you that got the corn beer?
Bush corn.
yes.
Yeah.
So they still stick with the themed cans, but nobody in the last, again, we're going to be proven wrong here in about a second, but
Yeah.
yeah, the orange can.
The hunt for the orange can was
Mhm.
like it was
Okay.
just a fun.
But did they not have it the last couple of years because of the ball can shortage? And they're like, hey, we can't do the short run on the orange cans.
Ooh.
Could
Maybe.
be.
I mean,
But I feel like that was such a good gimmick that they would just pony up and go, yeah, we're going to buy enough cans for the next orange cans for the next 10 years
So
to get the minimum.
the ball deal, you had to buy, which by the way, they have greatly retracted.
Have they?
Oh, like they have walked back large amounts of it to like find out like because think about the amount of breweries in the United States.
Right.
Right? 4,000 something, 6,000 whatever it is. How many can afford 1,000,000 cans of one SKU?
Yeah.
So that's well, I was actually talking to Chad about it today. I bought a beer the other day, and it wasn't until I picked it up from the bottle shop. It was like my second or third time handling it that all of a sudden I looked at it and I went, I'm looking at it, and the like top little angled part leading up to the top of the can is a different color scheme than the rest of the can.
They just rewrapped a can.
And the more I'm looking at it, like because like I'm holding a can here and they have the standard sticker on just the silver can where
Right.
there's the little gap. This one is perfectly wrapped all the way around, the one that I saw, but the top little angle, you can tell, you realize is like, oh, it's like a major produced can. So they paid them for the 1,000,000
Right.
of that, and then we're like, okay, we only needed like 750.
Right.
And now we got a bunch of these cans, so let's just like
Or it's
slap
like
a
our
sticker around it.
seasonal beer. We're not going to pay for one of
Yes,
the seasonal
exactly, and that's what
Yes.
it was. I think it was like a winter warmer.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I do miss the hunt for the orange. I like that idea. It was like, I might go out of my way to like grab that just on the happenstance. I've never found an orange can. But yeah, I never got. But I'm not gonna buy into these a ton, especially like you said that most of these ideas of the like gimmicks are macro beers. Like
Well,
I'm not going out of my way to buy a Bush Light corn.
no.
Yeah,
No.
but okay, so it has been the exclusive space of macros for years because of buying enough cans.
Mm-hmm.
I think we touched on this last episode with the breweries that are now having to rip custom stickers
Mm-hmm.
for their beers. Do we start seeing gimmicks like that? I think I said something about like Willy Wonka.
Like a
Do people start making, oh, hey, look behind the label, see if you got the golden ticket, you win a free beer. Or you win a t-shirt. Or do you start seeing gimmicks like that more at a local level as guerrilla marketing versus on a macro level? Because realistically, I'm not going to go out of my way to go hunt for an orange Keystone. Now.
Yeah, go ahead.
That was like,
He's saying now he's not going to, but he would have.
Oh, I was going
I
to
would
say,
have.
so you've got the microbrewers, the craft brewers that are wrapping
Yeah,
their own
yeah.
cans, right? So you're buying like the rooftop. So you've got a generic can. Well, and that one's peel away, but they make the ones that are the tear away labels, right?
Which, because some of them, like the type of sticker is whether the can can be recycled or not.
Right.
Like, you have liquid death over there.
Yep.
Like, that's not a like that can is made that way.
Correct.
Like, it's all the way black, it's all of that. But there's some where you look at and they're all the way up to the neck basically.
Right.
But it is a plastic shrink wrap.
Right. That you has.
And if it's the stickers, well, and I don't know. Can the stickers be recycled? The shrink wrap cannot.
Right.
So even if, like, some of them are legit, like, hey, we're doing you a solid, here's a tearaway.
Right.
So you can peel this bad boy off. And some are not. And, like, if I'm trying to be responsible, I gotta go grab a razor or something and cut that thing off.
So if you had one of the tearaway labels, so if your brewery's already set up for the tearaway labels, right, and
Being environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
right, but piggybacking on Chad's idea is, all right, you're going to tear this away because you're being environmentally friendly. Now we're going to incentivize you to be environmentally friendly because a certain number of cans are going to have a gold star or sticker underneath
Like
there.
a
See,
Tootsie Roll.
And then
Okay.
you could go one step further and
Yes.
go when you're local. Go, yeah, tear it away. If you bring in this can that has the
The
gold-
sticker on it.
gold
Yeah, yeah.
sticker underneath it or whatever, it's a free beer or
You get a growler.
I would even go just free beer if you come into our
Yeah.
deal. You put one of those in every single 6-pack you sell.
Whoo. Because how many people are actually coming
Because
in?
how many people are actually going to come in?
Yeah,
I
come
drink a
come in for
lot.
come in for a half off growler.
That's
of
a
local
statement.
beer. He
That's a
started
statement.
talking. I paused.
No, sorry. Yeah, no, but like, okay, so you come in, you get a 50 off growler.
Yeah.
You get to keep the growler. Now a piece of my company's logo is now sitting in your kitchen.
Well, and what are the chances?
You lost me.
What are the chances?
I don't
that-
need more growlers.
Well, there's that. But what are the chances? Whatever it is, whether it's a free beer or
I got you into my tap room.
I got you into my tap room. What are the chances that you were ever going to come in here or as frequently as
Yes.
And if you knew, man,
Mhm.
if I go and buy a 6-pack of Rooftop Brewing, one of them's got a free beer thing in it.
Yeah.
So now every time I buy one of those, I can go into the bar, get a free beer. How many more trips are you now making into their establishment where the margins are phenomenally
Or-
better? You're not paying the distribution.
And how many packs are you buying to bank free beers to bring all your friends? So Matt, like, yeah. So imagine like a
Dude,
guy.
you got to do a one per trip. Come on, man. You're
All right,
pissing
okay,
people.
Anyway,
Let's
cut
go.
this episode off right now. We need to sell this.
Right? Yeah.
this
don't
is- this is-
don't
this is not
publish
the-
this.
Box
we
it,
should-
box
This
it, box
is
it.
our new idea.
Call the patent office.
But dude, that's because Chad, you've been talking about this for a bit, but it didn't click until Alex said it this time. Is like, that's it. It's that tearaway shrink wrap label with something underneath. Like, I'm not pulling the paper off and doing it, but yeah, man, this is like
Because it's
feel like we just got,
incentivizing
like, a
you to
weird
get, but it's
high
also
times idea.
incentivizing you to
Mhm.
get it recycle ready. Sorry to talk over the top.
no, but
that's what it
yes,
is.
exactly.
There's a reason. I don't have a reason to tear it off. 99% of people go, oh, that's just
It's a can.
it's a funny feeling
Yeah.
can.
Right.
But now if it's like there's specific artwork on there, hey, tear this away, see if you win a prize.
Right.
Look at us.
Yeah.
Captain Planet
and you-
is shedding tears of joy
I mean,
with what we just unearthed.
there are so many in our area. There are so many breweries between 30 to 40 miles south of us to 40 to 50 miles north of us. There are so many breweries, but you've just given me that little extra bump
To go visit you.
of you.
Yeah.
I will go. Like, I will talk my family into, like, hey, I want to go to this brewery because blank. Like, let's do a day trip. We're gonna figure this out. Like, I went up not too long ago because it was the Washington Brewers Guild is doing their release of these like specialty glasses. It's a 3-day deal, and there's only so many breweries that have it. And I intentionally use it as a reason to not go to the one that is actually close to my house that I go to all the time
Right.
because I went, well, this one's a little bit further, but they got the glass, and it's a reason to go to that one that I don't
Right.
get to go to
Right.
all the time. So, yeah, man, I'm in.
Yeah, and even the next step now, imagine tap rooms that are filling crowlers. If they're just filling crowlers in the back, bam, you're putting stickers on your take-home
Do it
crowlers.
all.
Mm-hmm.
So many ideas.
So, piggybacking on that. So those were. You guys have any other novelty beer gimmick
That's
type things? The only other one that I did mention it was like the turning the mountains blue. So that was started as a Coors Light gimmick, and now they don't even. I don't even think they put it on the box anymore. It's just
they don't
the,
advertise
the
it.
It's
mountains
just
are
bog
blue.
standard.
And who was I with?
It was in a song I was just listening to today where they talk about like.
But I was with somebody younger. I'm like, well, you can drink that one because the mountains are blue, and they looked at me like I was had
Younger
two heads
of drinking age,
of drinking age, but
had no idea.
unfortunately, you can be 15 years younger than me and still be of drinking
Yes,
age.
yes.
Yes.
Like, what do you mean? Like the mountains turn blue when it gets cold, and they had no idea. It's not in the
What?
advertising anymore. It's just
Yeah, that's not an advertisement.
it's just part of what happens,
Oh my gosh! How
Right?
many times are you gonna blow my mind, man?
right?
God, that
Okay.
hurts my head.
I do have one more, and it's from Coors Light. What it feels like the Miller Coors folks are the ones throwing all this shit at the wall to see if it sticks because
Yeah.
Trying to gain
they're
market
number two.
share, yeah.
They're number two.
Yep.
Coors Light, they did in the summer. It was the 18 rack of bottles, but the cardboard box was lined with a plastic liner, so you could dump ice in it, and it was a cooler. You just rip the top off the
Oh.
cardboard box, and you're ready to go.
Like the cooler case or whatever they
Yes.
called it.
But
something
you
like
had
that.
an 18 pack of glass bottles now that you had to
Okay.
deal with.
This made me just think of one. Because yes, the glass bottles. There are some beers that I really like, but they come in glass bottles, and it's a little more frustrating to me, as those aren't recyclable where I live. I have to like take
Correct.
them specially somewhere.
Yes.
But it made me think. I almost bought. I tried to find it Bud Heavies years ago that came in a wooden crate, and for some
Yeah, I
reason it
remember
was
that.
just like this old school looking like Budweiser box that I was like, man, why do I want this like?
Right.
Why do I
box?
want
Like,
this box in
it's
my
like
house?
a literally wooden crate,
Right.
and I was just like, God, I kind of want this thing.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it's does anybody else do the color changing, cold color changing on the cans? Like that can't be like a trademarked thing. That can't be like
Oh, I guarantee they've got a trademark on it.
that
They have that
somehow
locked
that
down.
nobody else can do it.
Yeah, on a beverage can. Yeah, I'm sure they totally locked that down because who else was thinking about it when they did it?
Nobody, and it just doesn't exist.
But they don't do it. So for them, it's a guarantee. It's patented, whatever trademark.
But but it's like what you said. They aren't advertising it anymore. It's
No,
probably
so
patented.
fascinating.
But it's part of their branding,
yes,
even though they're not
Yeah.
mentioning it, because Miller Coors, they could put it on.
Yeah, like you hear like ads over the radio or like during a sports broadcast. You hear it every once in a while. It's just thrown in there. Oh yeah, the mountains are blue.
But
Time
they don't
for
put it
Coors
on
Light.
like Coors Original. Or,
right. It's not on other things.
Yeah, it's just Coors Light.
Huh.
So
We only had a shot glass today,
yes.
so I'm kind of out of.
Yeah, he's
something
kind
to
of looking
drink.
parched over there.
Oh, all right. I did bring a beer to review, and if you've been listening to the podcast, you can probably already guess what it's going to be here. We thought they went out of stock or extinct.
I was shocked when you told me you had one of these.
Or some of us just stopped working
It took me.
and shopping there.
Okay, so it's Trader Joe's Vintage Spiced Ale. Comes out every holiday season. Used to sell just gangbusters, cases and cases and cases of it. Let me see if I can not spill all over Chad's carpet.
As we pop. Oh, Mazel Tov.
Nice.
Pour out.
No, that's not my carpet. That's Odin's carpet.
Oh, so it's already it's
that
already
is his
wrecked.
space. Yeah, it's covered in his hair.
So this is the 2022 edition. We used to drink.
Oh my God, bottles of this a piece.
Yeah, every year.
Yeah,
It would come out.
oh,
It would be
like
an event.
1 to 2 bottles minimum.
So we've brought this up before in. I think I talked about it as being like one of those like subtly craft beers that we didn't realize that we were getting into craft beer with. Because just you're young. Even living in the Pacific Northwest, we weren't like going to breweries all the time. We weren't always drinking craft beer, but there
really weren't breweries to go to
well there
back then.
at that
back-
time there
back
was
at this
still.
time.
I mean, but you still had like Georgetown has been around, Mac and Jack's has been around. There's a lot of those like what they call the legacy. Like we even at that time, it was still a.
But we weren't going to spend the money on it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. but we found these different times and places, and one of those was the Trader Joe's beer that like it initially was like there were years where like we just bought bottles and gave them to each other as Christmas gifts. Like
I got one of
you bought
these.
me a bottle, I bought you a bottle,
Yeah.
and then we just like sat around and drank them, like but I mean this is a shockingly dark beer compared to what I feel like I remember.
Well, because it changes year to year.
Correct,
Had
but like
changed year to year, and one of the selling points on it was it's designed to be bottle aged.
mm,
So not forever. I mean, like a year, whatever, something like that.
at the max,
but
yeah.
most beers,
I mean certain
it's-
ones you do. It's a cork.
Most of the time they hit the store, they're already aged for you, ready to drink. This one is like a bottle of wine. It's like, hey, you can drink it now, or it's even better a year from now.
because
from
they're
the back-
corked
the-
beers.
It's corked, so from the back of the bottle, it's ready to enjoy right away. And you may also wish to cellar a few bottles. It'll evolve in interesting, well-developed, more complex flavors as the years go by. So keep it upright in storage. So not like a bottle of wine, but best served slightly chilled.
Okay, so maybe let this
Was,
warm a little.
Around 50.
We've had it out.
It's been out for a bit.
Yeah. In
Was
the
that
glass, it's
was
a
it
little
was that a beer gimmick I just heard?
what?
Buy one for now, buy a couple for later.
Oh yeah.
Could be.
A little sneaky beer gimmick there. Buy some more.
Because I think I had a
But it worked. It worked on us.
a 3-year old bottle or something, which was ancient, that would hold on for that long, was like a wedding gift from Chad. That he had
Yes.
held on to like a 20 or 2007. So it's got the description on the back there. It's a dark ale brewed with spices.
I think it's
I
a
can-
Belgian style.
Yep, Belgian
remember
style
right.
spiced ale. Comes out once a year. You might have overpoured yourself there.
Yeah, I
because
did.
that is 9% ABV.
That feels about right.
That's not too bad
No,
for being a
For what it is.
yeah.
And again, we're sharing, what is it, a
It's a 750.
Yeah, so it's a bottle
Okay.
of wine.
and it
Did it used to be 22s or was it?
I
I
think
feel
it's-
like it was always 750s.
I
and
think it's
just
always
forgot.
been
it's
about
been
this size.
750s.
Yeah. Just over a pint and a half.
Super-
Basically.
super clean smell.
I'm
almost
just getting a little bit of malt.
I was gonna say a little malt, maybe a little caramel.
Yeah, it's very subtle malt, very thin head. I'm getting a lot of bread, but it's overall, it's a pretty good taste. I think more of the spices will come out if you aged it.
Oh, that brings back some memories.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
A lot of that malt's going to settle out if you did age it.
It almost is. It's very carbonated. Isn't quite, but like what I'm thinking is more like champagne-y. That there
Yeah,
is like kind of a little bit of like a
Smaller
this sounds
bubbles.
silly, like a sparkle to it. Like there's a little bit of that like brightness in just the pop of the flavor of it, or like it kind of like you can almost feel it kind of crackle on your tongue as it
Yeah,
goes through.
I just held some on my tongue and it just fizzed very lightly.
And I wonder how much is the bottle conditioned, like if it's bottle conditioned or like
Right. Well, because I don't know if the microphones picked it up, but it had a pop
Mhm.
when I pulled the cork out.
I bet there's probably, if you probe the bottom of it, there's probably still a little yeast hanging out there.
Oh,
Doing,
do
doing their job.
do you have your temperature thing? It tells me exactly what degree would be best to drink it at. 53 degrees.
I read that
Yeah.
like 3 minutes ago.
Did you say the degrees?
Yeah.
God, I was reading something or
I'm
doing something,
almost
man.
positive, yeah.
Man, I've been struggling on that, man, today. I feel like that's the same.
You,
Goodness.
you finished your cider. That was your fatal error.
That's probably it. Yeah. One of the things that I feel like we've never really done is pair certain drinks with food.
Not usually when it comes to beer.
Yeah.
That seems more like it's a wine or a whiskey type thing where you're pairing them.
There are some that like, especially if you're a like a brew pub, well,
Yeah.
they will do that. Like, hey, here you want fish and chips. Like, here's a good
Beer that we
pairing. Yeah,
recommend.
and
Yeah.
I've never really done that because usually I go in with like,
These are the beers I want, and I
yeah,
kind
and
of
then
know-
I'm gonna figure out
Yeah.
some food. And I've definitely heard of people who say like, hey, so this you can mess it up, that it's gonna make the food or the beer taste bad. And
Right.
I've had that experience before. But this one has it on there too, especially like you're buying this like it's a wine, like a specialty. We talked about um other beers in the past being like, hey, this is a pre-meal thing or doing it. And this one really kind of states like, hey, here's some certain like foods,
to pair it with.
yeah, that would really go well or to
Hit me
be
with the
comparable
deets.
to it.
Hit me with the deets there. What kind of
Oh,
food do they
That's
want you
at
to
the
eat with
bottom of the
this?
Yeah, so grilled salmon. Oh, this
Mm,
says grilled salmon steaks. I don't know.
it's fish.
Yeah. Curried lamb, beef, or oh god, tuna au poivre.
They know their clientele at Trader
Yeah.
Joe's.
This is a beer review podcast, not a food
Yeah.
review podcast, so I have no idea what that means.
But
Did it just say
man, some fit like
fish,
some
lamb,
salmon.
beef
Yeah.
to pair it with meat? Is basically what they're saying.
Yes.
Yes.
But like, man, some grilled salmon with this. Starting to get a little hungry over here.
So
like,
it's too late. By the time you hear this, you will not be able to find these for the 2022.
Mm-mm.
that's unfortunately, it's probably true.
I accidentally threw it out that was going to be the beer review for this week,
Mhm.
and then had to drive to 3 different Trader Joe's to
No.
find it because
Nice.
the first 2 had already sold out for the season. And
Yeah,
there was
like-
probably
Okay,
like
so
5 or
my
6
thought of being
bottles
like,
left.
oh hey, maybe I'll go grab a bottle of this.
There were
Good luck.
4 left on the shelf in Burien on Wednesday.
Oh, I'm not
So,
driving
no.
a beer in, man.
Yeah. From what I remember, this was always one you had to get before Thanksgiving.
Usually,
Yeah.
yeah. And it slowed down in my time there. It slowed down. It wasn't the craze. They used to bring in like cases and cases. of
Yeah.
them, so
Because there's so much good beer now
be.
available than
could be. Well, and I
back
think
in the
maybe
day.
some of the novelties worn off. I don't
Yeah.
have any idea how long they've been doing it.
Mhm.
We may have stumbled into like the first handful of years where it was a new thing.
I think like 08 was the first year.
So when I pulled it up on,
My parents have been cleaning out the garage, and there may have been
the bottles.
some old bottles from like 08. Of
Still
these.
corked?
Still corked.
How'd they taste?
no,
No one was brave enough.
what,
Oh, we
Bring
could've-
'em here.
We could have done a side by
you
side
keep 'em?
comparison.
dude?
Aw.
Oh, come on, man.
I do remember it got better that first year, that first 2. I bought a case or 2 one year.
There was diminishing returns.
There was diminishing returns. I think I had one that was like 5 years old, and they don't say keep it for 5 years, and it had turned
I had one that had a
like
cork go bad.
and it could have been a corked bottle, but
Yeah.
it was almost
That's
like
true.
a bubble gummy.
You almost they need. That's why the ones that are really
You get a cage and a
wanting
foil,
to,
a very tight foil, or wax.
or if it's or they're waxing them. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is like if this were, even if it's the pop top, but you're waxing them, that is really kind of establishing yourself as like, hey, we're fancy, but also like you can let this chill, like you can let it sit for a while, like
Right.
you can let it hang. It's gonna be better at keeping that, like kind of what's in there,
Right.
and letting it kind of spend some time and figure it out. Man, I'm
Is it-
all kinds of reminiscent right now though.
Have we talked about the taste?
Just
I mean,
other
it's
than
It's
the
a
champagne-y kind ofness, not much.
yeah, champagne-y, very malty, super dark. Like I've got it between me and the light bulb here in the ceiling.
Nothing coming through.
Nothing coming through. All I see is reflection. But it's not black, but it's a very dark brown. I can tell, like a super dark brown.
And I don't know whether it's those bubbles you were talking about,
Mhm.
but it's got like a lingering mouthfeel.
Yeah.
Like you just drank.
The it'd be kind of interesting to find out more about like what spices and types of thing because like it
I'm
feels
getting-
like such a like
I'm getting clove. I'm almost getting like
Yeah.
a banana feel from a hef, but this is a
Th-
Belgian style ale,
and that
so
would make
probably
sense.
depending on the yeast they use, you're
Yep.
probably getting a little bit some esters that are giving you banana and fruity flavors. But
yeah, it talks about some, it says it's coffee colored, But yeah, it
Very,
really doesn't
very
give a
coffee colored.
ton of the details on the long. I I still kind of like think back to us at that time, and man, I in a night of hanging out, we would drink a bottle of this and then just random light beer. Like there just wasn't we didn't have a full it's not like we did this and then some IPAs
Right.
and
It was
then
Keystone Light, this,
yeah.
Keystone Light.
And that's why it's such a like stands out as a part of that um craft crossover. Like that whatever it happened that we ended up grabbing them um and having them and deciding that this is really good,
Right.
but then it became that switch. It honestly, and I've talked about this before, it reminds me of that the foo bar, the random beer at the pit that
Right.
was like that dark-ish, and it just became like I kind of remember my dad was actually getting back into craft beer and he was really into ambers, where he talked about it being this like lower ABV beer, but still had like some
Tons of
rich,
flavor.
Yep.
yes, some rich like flavor. And to me, like I'm never going into a brewery and being like, oh, they got an amber on tap. I'm
Right.
stoked.
Right.
But there is that like kind of like richness to the flavor, and there is some like stuff to it, and how we happen to stumble upon something like this that potentially created that bridge. And it's such a weird kind of bridge that like I have a weird love of Belgians and those types of
Right.
things, and not realizing like this is the first time
That's
it's
probably
probably
why.
close to a decade almost since I've probably had one of these, and now realizing like, is this why I love Belgians? Like,
Right.
is this why I've
A little bit
like,
of nostalgia.
yeah, because I mean, we haven't thought about it or talked about these,
At least
and
10 years.
certainly hadn't drank them in
Yeah.
a long time.
I think I know how we stumbled on it in the first place.
Okay.
It was a $3.99, 9%, $7.50
Yeah.
back in those days, and it's still. I think it was only like $6.
And being a gift,
Yeah.
that it was like
It's fancy enough that you could, and we were basically just trading bottles back and forth.
eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
But kind of a
But
cool-
it is a nice bridge in that we were going with super light, super straw, fizzy,
Mm-hmm.
lightly hopped beer. Going to this, it's super low hops, if
zero
at all that you can.
IBUs, yeah,
But it's
mean, I'm
just
sure
you're getting
It's
a little
almost
more of that.
negligible. On Beer Advocate.
Yeah.
You're getting a little more malt flavor,
Mm-hmm.
and that helped to propel us to go try
Something with a little bit more.
some. Like you weren't afraid of dark. Like we were like
Oh, yeah,
Right.
there was that mystery of, well, it's dark. What does it taste like? I know what yellow fizzy beer tastes like. What does dark
Right.
beer taste like? Because you saw Alaskan Ambers out there. You saw IPAs. You saw
Yeah.
Red Hooks, like things that weren't really like we wouldn't consider craft now, but were kind of craft then. Like it's something different than what we were that you could find in the beer aisle, realistically.
Yeah, not at
A
your
lot of times.
every store, but you're going to somewhere.
Because we were college kids and we were buying beer at Rite Aid.
Right.
Which now, if you walk into a Rite Aid now,
They
there's
have a
craft
beer, yeah.
offerings
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so like imagine if we were hitting 21 right now. One of us would just be an absolute IPA head, would have never had
Yeah.
a Busch Light in their life.
Alex
There'd be
pointed
some,
at me.
and then we'd have the weird guy who only drinks sours.
Ooh, that's
Yeah,
you.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I'd be the weird sour guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a cucumber sour out in the garage
Ooh,
that we're gonna have to do a review on.
that sounds good, actually.
That's a fun flashback. It's a fun like
It's
it makes me wish I'm gonna like set a
Reminder.
for like early next year to just go and grab some. Just to
I
have-
think I think after doing this, yes, I'm gonna go grab two
I'm gonna if I you
and
can
do
find
a proper
some,
taste.
yeah.
Maybe we do a proper taste test next year.
I'd have to find another bottle.
Well, next year we'll buy two,
And then we
Do
got
a quick review on one, and then a year later try to remember it.
You got some legs in this podcast,
Yeah.
or hope for some legs that we're going to be around in 3 years or 2
well,
years.
I mean,
I'm sure all of our loyal listeners will stick through till the end of the experiment.
there you go.
Moving on to beer news. I didn't pull any for this week, but I think we had a couple still on deck. Thor, I think you've got most of them submitted. Any ones that
Thor's been our beer news guy. I feel like I've been
I've
slacking.
had a
You were
lot of-
supposed to be the beer news guy.
I know.
No, you're
I just-
you're the beer list guy.
I just earlier talked about like
Well, let's find something to talk about.
my life and work is not as stressful as it's been, yet I don't feel like I'm doing more to help us out here.
So you sent in. You can pick whichever one you want.
Well, we were kind of
yeah,
homing in on this one earlier. Stuff about beer packaging trends.
yeah.
I think a lot of what their industry is looking at now is not only, can minimums,
Mhm.
stuff like that, but now people are looking forward to like putting the beer in the can is like step one.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Step two is, are you putting it in rings, or are you putting it now in the plastic, the hard plastic carriers,
The pack,
Right.
which I love. Like
I do and don't.
all this,
I got thoughts.
but all this beer I've been buying, because if I go see good beer, I gotta buy it now. I'm a fiend again.
Welcome to my life.
You guys ruined me.
I feel
But I've got like a
brought this
dozen of them
podcast
sitting in the
back.
fridge.
and I feel like we've ruined Chad in like
Absolutely.
Chad was like, "Man, I haven't really drank much lately," and it's like, "Hey, we're gonna do this podcast again." And
Yeah,
he's
hey
like,
guys, I've lost 40 pounds in the last 6 months. Let's start drinking beer again.
Pack them all back in.
Yeah.
Turns out drinking less beer has been my key to.
But being able to rip off a 4-pack, now I've
Yeah.
got a carrier for 4 beers.
I
Awesome.
I brought 4 randoms today because I have.
A stack of them.
That's my problem, is that I can't determine.
If they're recyclable or not.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I read somewhere that like some breweries will take them, but I've never seen like a sign that says, "Hey, bring your pack techs here," and they're like multicolored, random types. Like I don't need as many as I have. Could I keep like a dozen between a 6 and a 4 and be legit for just like, hey, I'm gonna grab a mix pack like I've done it before. I'm a mix pack and I'm gonna go to a party. I'm gonna do these things. I'm going to the lake. Perfect. I don't need 100 of them,
Mhm.
but I have a stack. I have a huge stack of these, and I don't know what to do with them. Can I recycle them? Can I not recycle them? Do I throw them away? Do I not? Like, they're recyclable, but does it mean they're made from recyclable stuff, or does it mean I can recycle them?
Oh, so I almost guarantee that they'll end up in a landfill if you try to recycle them, right? But
Yeah.
recycle them in the, is there a brewery out there that will take them, wash them, and deal? Or are you violating food
I don't know.
codes trying to do, I mean, can you sterilize them, reuse them? Because that would be the easiest way.
But also, some breweries are only using certain colors. Some have their logo printed now on
Right.
top, like they're stickered. The best reuse I've seen is at some bottle shops, where
Oh,
they
yep.
just basically have a stack of them.
For the build your own 6-pack.
Yes. So it's like
I'm
as
waiting
I'm
for
going
grocery
in,
stores to get on board with that. Like, because they want you to bring your own bag in now up in
Yeah.
our area.
Oh,
If I could bring in my own thing, hey,
we'll save that for offline, but I got some
I-
thoughts on that.
but they like, even there's another bottle shop that I go to, and they just have their own printed cardboard 6-packs.
Yes.
And it's like, I appreciate that I can walk in and grab it, but also, do you know what happens? I use it to fill that, and then I take it home,
it gets recycled.
and I immediately am throwing it out. I'm not using that again.
It's at least recyclable.
And so I struggle with all that. But
You need your own branded Budweiser case,
wooden
case that you can take into the
Dude,
store.
I would take,
Load up.
actually,
You
I
would,
have-
you would be using that at a grocery store. Hey, can I build my own 6-pack in this?
if it weren't holding all of my koozies, I have a wooden 6-pack holder
There
with
you
a
go.
bottle opener on the side that I don't even remember how or why I
Where-
have
where
that,
you got it, yeah.
but it just sits on top of my beer fridge.
That
and
feels
holds
like a
all my
wedding
koozies.
gift.
It's probably,
Probably.
yeah. But like, I love it up there, but it's also being almost overshadowed by the giant stack of pack tech.
Yeah.
So you're talking about packaging in general.
But I'd like to circle back around. So part of what they're looking at now for the future,
Oh yeah,
outside of recyclability, is CO2.
yes.
Al Gore's nemesis, CO2.
And thank
Um,
you for bringing this up. Go ahead.
But part of what they're looking at is, yes, some of the CO2 in the making of the packaging or the recyclability or the reusability of the packaging. But the other things they're looking at is this stuff still has to get from A to B.
Mhm.
How do you reduce the impact?
Okay, so we're going not the CO2 in the beer. We're going carbon emissions.
Oh,
yeah.
let me take a step back.
The
then
CO2 in getting beer from A to B. How can we more efficiently pack beer into a tighter space?
That's got to be a billion times worse than the carbonation or the CO2 that goes into the beer.
But CO2 in the beer. So let's talk about that for a second, because there has been a shortage over the last few years.
Right.
And there's a brewery opening near some friends of mine in Seattle, and I didn't know if they knew, and so I sent them a message, hey, this brewery's opening like blocks away from you guys. And so someone started to look at it, and one of them stumbled onto some other news and was like, did you know there's a CO2 shortage? And I was like, yes, I did know this. I'm a beer nerd. I've been paying attention to it for a while. And so it's this thing that has impacted breweries, but not. These are people who drink a lot of craft beer. They live in Seattle. They go to places, do that, and they had no idea. And so it is kind of a fascinating issue that they've been dealing with. Sierra Nevada has added. I heard it described as like a spaceship bubble to the top of their facility that is basically trying to capture the CO2.
That's what I was hoping you were
their
going
process.
towards. Yeah.
Yeah. So through the process of brewing, it is capturing like the cast off CO2 that then they are using to then carb their beers.
So another beer gimmick. Here is this special batch of beer that has only been carbonated with the yeast farts made to make this beer. Okay, let's take this further. Do you see people eventually down the line optimizing their beer recipes to be completely closed? So all the CO2 generated from the fermentation of the product goes into the packaging.
I think in a way, yes.
For wholesale.
Because I know of some breweries, I think Iron Horse was one of them, that a couple years ago really highlighted the fact of what amount of water went into their actual because if you're just terrible with your effectiveness of brewing and water usage,
I've got great data.
You're looking at 6 gallons of water
to make like a gallon of beer.
Yes. Yeah. And they got down. This was a couple years ago. I feel like they highlighted it, but they got down to 2 to 1.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was something. It was something where when you really process it as having brewed and realizing even are they including the cleaning of stuff?
I think it was
because
they have to,
right? Because that's where we blow through
I can
water.
give you an example from yesterday, if you guys like.
Yeah. Go for it.
So, just water in to make 1 gallon of beer is 1.75. That's how much boil loss.
Oh yeah,
mash loss. If I had to estimate, I spend another 10 gallons cleaning.
Right?
But
for 1 gallon of beer.
Steam and whatever more efficient ways of
but
cleaning.
But also if they find a way to, if you're doing it in a certain space where it's recapturing that water, and you can,
that's amazing. That is amazing efficiency.
Yeah, it was something absurd, but that's what I'm saying. There are certain people, especially in the fact of so Aslan out of Bellingham is what's called a B Corp.
Okay.
Which is actually really difficult to do, but it's they're certified organic throughout the entire process. There's when it comes to breweries, there's only a handful that actually
go through all the steps.
To do
it. Yeah.
But so they're a certified B Corp in that process. I could see that either being a part of that at some point or an offshoot of that is that water effectiveness.
Yeah.
How much water are you using to do this? and then eventually like a CO2 version. Like that there is that like how effective are you like cuz the B Corp is like hey, are you being aware of what you're using? And then as time goes on, we're just realizing more and more like, oh, we also should watch out for this, or
Right.
we should watch out for that. Like I could see that stuff getting kind of wrapped into that eventually.
And if the recapture of CO2 from the fermentation becomes so good, do you see all of a sudden a trend in craft beer? All of a sudden find all the various ABVs, all of a sudden find like a very narrow band, and that becomes a
Mm.
sweet spot for this is the most optimal ABV for CO2 recapture versus like how much, like if you go too much above the line, then you're
Yeah,
losing. If you go too below, then you're wasting your time.
you could, but
That'd be really interesting if this was an outcome, if the CO2 recapture
Well, so
process becomes super vital.
it's all recapturing or the converted sugars, right?
Yeah.
Is what drives
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
ABV. So if you were looking at that, the higher the ABV, the more CO2 is produced,
But
right?
what if you didn't need that much to carbonate all the beer?
Oh, so how much are you
So we're looking
taking
for that
from? Okay,
balance.
okay,
How
no,
much
I get what
CO2
you're
do
doing.
you need per gallon of beer to properly carbonate it to the style? Because like carbonation varies on the styles.
yeah, but I think just along the lines of like, there's some people who make beers that aren't super cost effective, but they draw in crowds. You still will get into that kind of like thing where you're going to make this thing that isn't super cost effective or isn't super CO2 effective, but uh you're going to do it because
Driving traffic, and then you could do like carbon credits or
yes,
something else where it's going
exactly.
in.
Like we
So
have a super low carbon beer on
footprint.
this end.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. That you're balancing it out with that stuff. That's what I would see. Um, and I like it. I like the idea of it. I would love to. I one of the things I've struggled with brewing even is being like super sciencey minded. Like me now looking back, I'm like, man, I should have paid more attention to chemistry or
right.
like doing these things and realizing I need that type of stuff. I would love to like dig into it more and to pick the brain of someone at Sierra Nevada or do those types of things to understand it better as not as a sciencey minded person, but as just a regular person, be able to explain like, hey, here's
Right.
what's going on, and then can it become the way of like we've talked about in the past of like a Sam Adams buying a ton of hops to distribute to people? Can there be some big players that can help those smaller ones to
We'll show you how.
yeah, exactly. Like
Or do the macros all of a sudden become, hey, we've got the ability because we're making the what 23,000 some pools of beer
yeah,
a
right.
year a day. We're going to take all that CO2 and we're going to resell that CO2
to other people.
to everybody
Yeah.
in the beer industry at a super reasonable rate because,
Well, they're not going to do that, but
well,
If they can make money off their excess
transportation cost,
CO2,
yeah.
if
I
they,
mean,
a super reasonable rate is where I said they're not going to do that.
Yeah. because
But-
because they're a public company and their
Yeah.
duty is to the shareholders.
can-
They can't. They're not maybe they've set up a
it could be reasonable,
nonprofit
meaning
that distributes the CO2.
it's
to help
money they're
offset it.
making on something
Yeah.
they didn't sell before.
My guess is you could probably get somebody at Sierra Nevada to talk to you about the process. If you spent, Lord knows how many hours and years designing a spaceship bubble on
Yeah,
the top to recoup it, somebody's
Yeah.
probably super excited about
Someone's
that
super
and very,
pumped about it.
and very willing to talk to
Yeah.
you about all the process that went in there.
yeah.
All right. Any other beer news you want to cover, Thor? Is that
I was just gonna say
No.
the packaging thing earlier. Like,
okay?
I think we, for other than specialty stuff, I think we near the end of glass bottles. I just don't see them continuing as much. There's
It's
very
tough.
few that sell their 6-packs in bottles.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're getting them in bottles, it's like the vintage ale that's in a certain thing.
Well,
I don't see a
I can-
vintage ale transitioning to a 19.2 can.
no.
There's certain things that need to be bottled. They need to be that, but it's going to be much more niche. Like that, they're
It
just
is.
fitting into
And it-
smaller spaces. And honestly, if I'm looking at two different beers on the shelf, that I'm like, do I want to buy this one or do I buy that one? And one is in cans and one's in bottles. And there's nothing different. I'm gonna buy the cans.
Okay, so going to novelty beer
Oh yeah.
trends,
Yeah.
you would never have said that 10 years ago.
No.
You would never have been able to find a craft beer in a can. And
No.
now it's almost the standard. And we talk about, I mean, we're now down to the recyclability of the label that's on
Right.
top of it.
Yes.
Uh,
It's a big change.
but that took a huge chunk for
Yeah.
especially the craft beer industry to come around to on, hey man, cans are better.
Yeah.
Aluminum is infinitely recyclable, and glass is kind
As
of
long
a
as you don't have
pain.
a terrible label on it.
Right, but glass is a little bit of a pain. But I don't even think that's where, as a beer consumer, I don't think where that shift started at. It is maybe a little bit now, as that's
Yeah.
becoming more top of mind. But yeah, craft beer gimmicks. Going to cans, going to those 4-packs,
Blocking out the sun.
right.
No, you're totally right, because I've been going through the archives of the old blog,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
and I found every photo of every review I did. Like
All
there's
bottles.
almost 60 photos, all 22s.
Yeah.
That's what craft was. It was a brown bottle because more than likely 2-3 years ago, the person making that craft brew was at home brewing, and like putting stuff in a bottle was the best way to get it out in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
But now, the ability to run a crowler, because right now, as a home brewer, people are making equipment. You can go onto Craigslist and buy equipment to fill a crowler, because it's just
As a
like
homebrewer,
When it's come down so much,
because
when we first saw
you just need a CO2 gun and fill it up, pump in the right amount of CO2, put the can on, and you're done.
I don't
So-
know. That's what Alec told me about bottles too, and I still don't buy it.
We
Yeah,
can-
but
we still can't get the
we have a
CO2 right.
CO2 gun. It still doesn't. We can still couldn't figure it
Yeah,
out.
but the funny thing is, now as a home brewer, there are places you can go, and if you want to buy enough, you can buy cans.
Yes.
And you could fill your own cans and put all your home brew into cans.
Love it.
It's wild, that shift.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Yeah.
some of those, I mean, a little off topic, but I wonder if some of those, like the U-Brew stations.
There's one downtown.
Yeah. Well, no, we have talked about going there, and then we
I
never
still have
actually.
never done
we've
it,
Never
yeah.
done it. We've made our own beer, and we
Plenty.
seemed like
yeah.
we'd be rookies going. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a step backwards.
But I wonder if that's something that they have implemented there, and I don't know because they've got all the equipment. So
that's
you
a good-
brew it all here.
That's a good point.
You can keep it here. Do they have? All right, now
'Cause it used
before
to
you
be in
leave,
bottles. You get it in bottles. My
Yeah.
friends have done it
Yeah.
at a place in Everett. That's like, here's your bottles of your beer,
Yeah,
and
it-
now they're like, no.
yeah, and because the canning stations have come down so much in cost, so they just have it there, and that's part of the services. Now it's in cans.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Hmm.
All right,
All right. Well, our glasses,
Yeah.
No, wait.
beers,
Give me a second.
ciders.
ciders are empty. Hopefully, yours are too.
Oh,
Done. Done.
We'll see you next time.
I ate 3, and then had a winter warmer beer, and it was just over 1,000 calories.
But why Little Caesars?
Why Little Caesars?
Like, so if I'm gonna burn calories on
Yeah.
a pizza, I'm getting something a little bit next level than
I
hot and ready's.